Welcome to the Slowpoke Travel Podcast. Ta-da!
You're listening to our podcast, the Slowpoke Travel Podcast. We hope you enjoy our podcast. The podcast starts right now. Slowpoke Travel Podcast with Buck and Camera Girl.
Ta-da! We're going to talk about
I'm going to
the
have my mouth
differences.
full.
She's going to have her mouth full with Mame Sapote.
See.
And we are going to talk about the benefits, or the drawbacks, or the pros and cons. Compare and contrast house sitting to not house sitting.
To
which
renting.
Is being in an Airbnb, because we love to house sit because house sitting is fantastico. It's a great way to travel.
You get to be with furry animals.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's an obvious financial benefit because you can travel and it doesn't cost you anything other than to get there, which can be an expense. But I mean, compared to traveling and not house sitting, I mean, the savings makes all the difference in the world, especially for the kind of traveling that we're doing. But if we are in a place like Mexico or a Latin American country where we are spending our American dollars, you know, we get a lot of bang for our buck. So being in Mexico, we don't have to house sit.
Sort of like Ecuador when we
Yeah,
visited
like Ecuador. I mean, it was very affordable for us coming from the United States. So we didn't do any house sits in Ecuador. We were in Ecuador for 3 months. The first time we were in Mexico a few years ago, we spent 5 months, and we house sat for maybe 1 month out of the 5 months we were there.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Now we're here in Mexico this time, and I think we'll be here at least 5 months, and I think during that time we are going to house sit 3.5 months. And then the other month and a half will be in Airbnbs, and this is one of the Airbnbs. And I think we're spending like $380 for the week.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll put it down below. But it's not a cheap Airbnb. I mean, we could stay
It's nice.
for a lot less.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a very large place. We've got this kitchen. We've got this sitting room. We've got 3 bedrooms.
Right.
You know, so it's very roomy. It's a lot more room than we need, but we like to have the room. We like to spread out. It is maybe more affordable because there isn't a washer and a dryer. Mm-hmm. But we're only here for a week, so we didn't need that. If we got it for a month, it'd be a lot less because we'd get a monthly discount probably. So it's a great deal, and we don't have to house sit while we're here in Mexico. But we did just finish a 5-week house sit.
Were you going to show people around a little bit?
Oh, yeah. And then we'll come over here and sit on the couch and talk about the pros and cons. Because this is a cool little Airbnb. I like that they have these pictures of these saints. This is a San Gabriel.
Those aren't saints. Those are archangels.
Archangels? What's the difference between a saint and an archangel?
An archangel is one of, I think, 7 layers of God's angels.
7 layers? I think you're thinking of a cake.
No.
Anyway, I don't know much
cakes.
about archangels except for there was a Christopher Walken movie where he played...
He played Gabriel.
Did he play Gabriel? He played this fella, or this guy.
And in this house,
Or
they
this
have
angel.
3 of them. They have Raphael, they have Gabriel, and I
Okay.
think they have Michael.
Well, I think in that movie, with that Christopher Walken movie, they had all of those archangels too. And this is Raphael, and there is
In the hallway.
Saint Michael as well, and San Miguel. San Miguel is Saint Michael.
It's the patron saint of this city. You're right, and he's in the hallway.
I'm not going to go back there because
okay.
all the lights are off and it's very dark. And there's nothing but empty bedrooms back there. But this is a pretty cool and interesting Airbnb. There's lots of little knickknacks. And I haven't seen a cuckoo clock in Mexico before. So that's the first time we've seen that. But we'll go ahead and plop on the couch and do our podcasty thing right here. And this podcast is brought to you by Erdez Salsa Ranchera.
Stop.
Actually, it's not, but this is going to be...
All right, I'm coming.
Here, I'm going to use this to prop up my video system here. So we just finished up a 5-week house sit in San Miguel. We were taking care of 2 kitty cats.
Indoor, outdoor cats.
And it was so much fun. And it was such a great house. I mean, it was terrific. We really enjoyed that house sitting. We were very lucky to get it because house sits in Mexico, you don't see a lot of them on Trusted House Sitters. And when you do, boom, they're there and gone fast.
You're right on Trusted House Sitters, the site we use, but there are some other sites that are Mexico specific, and there might be more.
Maybe.
Don't
Isn't
know.
there one called House Sit Mexico? If there is, I think there is one that's Mexico specific, and I'll put a link down below, and you can check that out. I've also got a link to Trusted House Sitters, and if you use that link, you will get like 25% off or something, and then we'll get like a free month or 2 months. It's great for us if you use it, and it's great for you if
To
you
try
use
it out.
Yeah, to try it out. But we haven't tried another house sit.
Another site.
I mean, I've looked into them, but they're just not as easy to navigate, and they don't have the options that Trusted House Sitters has. The Trusted House Sitters app has morphed a lot. It's changed a lot over the years from when we first started it, and not for the better.
Most of it has been for the better, but yeah, there's been
What has been for the better?
where it started with more England, Australia, and some places in the U.S. I think it has expanded.
Yes, I mean I mean, it's getting bigger all the time. There are a lot more options. Certainly in the United States, it has grown. More people are using it. But that's not making the app better. That's just more people are using the app. But the app itself, you know, it doesn't support the video thing like when we first started. I mean, it's still a great app. It's still a great site, but there's no better one. If there was a better one, we would be using it.
But the thing that sort of made us go, whoa, and it may help the homeowners.
I don't see
Homeowners,
how.
when they put up a listing, once 5 people apply, it's cut off, which means that if it's something halfway around the world and you're not looking at your phone, you may miss it. It used to be, you know, it would stay open for 20. The
homeowner would get as many applications
and
as
then
people
they could cut
apply.
it off. Well, and then they could cut it off.
Yeah, but now it cuts off automatically at 5. And if you're not one of the first 5 applicants, then you might not see that house sit again.
At all, exactly. And so that part is too bad. And it does seem like, as a homeowner, do you want the ones that are just the fastest to apply, or do you want people who take a minute to think it through? And but anyway, so that's
because we don't think it through like we used to. Like if we see a house sit and we're interested in it, initially, our initial gut reaction is we have an interest in this house sit, then we apply lickety split because
we have a template.
Because if you don't apply immediately, you might not have the option. You know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, it might be gone.
But there can be something else amazing around the corner.
Of course, and there are house sits that don't go that fast. Lots of house sits don't go that fast. And they can be great house sits. Like if it's, you know, right in the middle of Paris, France, an apartment, or London, or some
Seattle.
highly sought after location, it's going to be gone. If it's in Idaho Falls, Idaho, which can be a lovely place, or even Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or someplace that's a little more specific, you know, certainly for a time of the year, like if it's winter. Like I saw a house sit that I really liked in Montreal.
Yes.
And it was a fantastic looking house sit. And it was actually up for quite a little while. And I was really thinking about it and trying to sell it to Camera Girl because it looked terrific. But it was Montreal in the winter. So even though it had a lot of pros, there were some cons too because it was going to be cold.
And we do like a little bit of comfort.
Shoveling snow. Who knows?
We're not afraid of that part.
No, but, you know, my bones aren't as interested in being cold. We saw another one in England on the coast in some little town. It looked like a fantastic place, and that house sit was available for a little while, and we talked about applying for that, and I actually went on YouTube and looked at some videos about that area in the wintertime. And after looking at those, I said, well, maybe we won't.
Well, part
because
of
it looked like we would, you know, if we got locked out of the house, we might die because of the elements.
And some years were less wimpy than others for the winter. But yeah, I think the last couple of years we just said warm sounds good.
Yeah, warm sounds good, which is one of the reasons we ended up in Mexico for this winter, because we decided we were going to go to Mexico. And then once we started looking into making travel plans to Mexico, we were looking at Guadalajara, actually, because we love that city. But then a couple of house sits here in San Miguel popped up, and we applied, and we got them. We applied lickety-split because they were gone almost instantaneously. But now we're spending a lot of time here, and we're loving it. And San Miguel is fantastico. And the house sit that we just did is fantastico. And now we're in an Airbnb. So, do we like being in an Airbnb, or do we like doing a house sit?
Why does it have to be either or?
Well, the thing is, there are pros and cons.
Yeah.
One of the biggest pros with the house sit is that there is aluminum foil, aluminium for our UK friends.
You say that, and it's true. There's coffee filters. Generally, if somebody lives in their home, it's fully equipped. But generally, we get all of that stuff anyway because we don't want the homeowners to come back and we've used up all of their stuff.
Yeah.
But it is nice that, like if the first night there before you've gone to the markets and whatever, yes, there's TP, there's aluminum foil, there's a coffee filter for the first morning. But we generally, and part of that's just me, I want to be sure we bring in a bunch of stuff so they don't come back and their favorite soap is gone.
I mean, the house sit is basically you're just living in their house, and
you
don't have to pay rent. You don't pay for the utilities. It's generally pet sitting. House sitting is pet sitting,
generally,
or plant sitting. There's not always pets, but mostly there is. Yeah. But it's sort of like an exchange of services. But you're not going in there and just, eating all the food in their fridge and everything. We replace anything that we use in a house sit. But it is nice having everything that you need in the house generally before you need it. That's Whereas true. Here with this Airbnb, there's no aluminum foil, there's no coffee filters, there's no anything. If we find that we want something, we have to go and get it. And Airbnbs can really...
There's a range.
It can be a big difference between one and the other. We stayed at one in Guayaquil, and I think they gave us a pitcher of water and one roll of toilet paper and said, "Good luck." And it was a really nice Airbnb, but they didn't provide anything.
And you had to have filtered water.
Yeah,
that was.
We got a big jug of water. We got a big bottle of water right over here provided, and then there's water outside.
And it is there again. There's a range because I remember when we were in Guanajuato before. They told us you'll end up getting your own water, and there's a place right across the way where you can pick up the things, but they weren't going to, especially because we were staying a month. They weren't giving you water for a month. So there's a range.
Like here, if we stayed here for a month, I think the water would be included. We wouldn't have to.
Well, that's true.
It all depends on the Airbnb, but usually they give you some kind of water if you're in a South American country.
But not.
Or someplace where you can't drink the tap water. Usually you get some
they give you something
starter
to start.
Water.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But who knows? Yeah. They might have had other things going on. But
one of the benefits to doing a house sit as opposed to
Airbnb?
An Airbnb, or like being in an older unit in Mexico. Like it all depends, because a lot of times house sits are fancy, especially if you're going on a month-long house sit or an extended one. Sometimes it's people that have a home, or maybe they have multiple homes, and so they're going from one location to another location and need somebody to be in their home while they're away, or take care of their pet while they're away. There's a wide range of different types of homes and accommodations. But I find that with the house sitting we've done, those are the best places we've ever stayed.
Well, and the other thing is, even if they aren't fancy per se, there's a warmth because people live there, and generally, if we get a good vibe from the profile, even before we've talked to somebody on Skype or Zoom or whatever, generally their home is just warm and great, and plus you got little furry creatures and to take care of, and so even if it isn't quote unquote fancy, often they have, the house that we just sat at had 2 beautiful terraces. One was, I would have called it a mirador, but anyway, it was on the roof and you just looked around and you could be up there at golden hour, and it was gorgeous.
And there's one here too.
Yeah,
but it's just not part of this unit.
Yeah. This is split up.
But this doesn't feel like a home. Actually, this feels more like a home than a lot of Airbnbs. But still, it feels like a well-appointed.
Yeah, it is.
Hotel.
It is clean, and that's another thing with Airbnbs. We have seen a range of cleanliness where if it's somebody's home, you don't generally open up a cupboard and think, I'm going to shut that for now. So that, and it's usually very well maintained. Yeah. They don't forget if there's a plumbing issue.
We've been very fortunate with the house sits. You got to vet them. You got to look at the reviews. It can be a crapshoot, but I think Airbnb is more of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Airbnb is going to have less amenities. Mm-hmm. Airbnb is going to be more sterile. And Airbnb is going to cost you money. Even here in Mexico,
more money.
We're spending more than we need to spend right now because, we could have spent less, but we wanted to be in this area and blah blah blah. But if we had stayed at the house that we were just at, if that home was an Airbnb, how much would that cost?
Oh, I have no idea.
We wouldn't even consider that as a possible rental because they
Excuse me, I don't know.
I mean, they could get, I don't know how much they could get that is an Airbnb rental, but it would be out of our range. Whereas as a house sit, not only is it in our range, it's perfectly free except for the responsibility of taking care of the pets, which we had 2 cats. And they were outdoor cats.
Indoor-outdoor.
They were indoor-outdoor. Mm-hmm. So there was a level of stress there.
For you. Yeah.
You didn't worry about it at all?
I didn't. Because the people, that's the other thing. Not that we have met some great people via Airbnb hosts, but via house sitting, we just meet great people. And they were just very clear about, hey, we've rescued the cats, we've had them this long, here's some things about them, blah, blah, blah. So I don't. Once they tell me, then I'm like, okay, you've set the parameters. And we usually ask those kind of questions while we talk to them on the phone before we even get to their home. But the other thing, like you say, there's the responsibilities. And in some ways that's a negative. But on the other hand, the first day we woke up here, it was like, the cat's not at the bottom of the bed, and we don't have to get up and look at their antics and feed them and all that. And it was sort of sad.
We have slept in here. In fact, we didn't get up the other day until after 9 o'clock, which you can't really do in San Miguel if you want to make the most of the day. But at the house sit, we were getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, maybe a little earlier.
5:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, whenever the cats jump on the bed and tell you it's time to get up.
Yes.
That's when we would
get up. Because we want to keep them on their routine, exactly.
Yeah. Which can be annoying if you don't want to get up, but then again, it's also nice to have a schedule.
The structure.
Yeah, it's nice. Automatically, we have a structure to our day built around the pets. And the pets are a lot of fun. And I really didn't stress out about the pets being inside and out.
Good.
But I mean, there was a time when I would have. I think I've grown more comfortable over the years because somebody else's pet, I mean, it's a responsibility. It's like a member of the family. So
I think the universe helped you out because the one time that we house sat for a 3-legged animal, and we found out that they had just become a 3-legged animal a year before.
Yeah.
You had to go. And I thought that was great because, at that point you were still, if there was an outside cat,
they don't even know what happened to that cat. That cat just lost its leg. They don't know if it got hit by a car. They don't know if some coyote had taken the cat's leg.
But alligator.
The cat, something. But the cat was traumatically injured and they had to take it to the vet and they got it all patched up or whatever. But anytime we're house sitting and, like here in Mexico, when the cats left the house, I'm like, I hope they come back with all their legs, because you got to worry a little bit about that stuff.
But you were not as concerned. You're right this time. But the first couple of times we did indoor-outdoor cats, you were concerned.
I've relaxed more about it, and I'm shocked that I was relaxed here because they're indoor-outdoor cats in the city. So it wasn't like the cats were leaving the house and going out into the yard. The cats were leaving the house and going out into the street where there's cars and motorcycles and
and on the
people.
roof.
Yeah.
But
Who knows where? But of course, I'm sure they knew a lot more about what they were doing when they left the house than we know when we're in Mexico.
Yeah, when we first start. Yeah.
But, there's the responsibility. Like, didn't you feel like a weight was lifted somewhat when we finished the house sit?
The responsibility can be a double-edged sword because, sure, to me, it's very intimate. You're staying in someone's home and you're taking care of their pets and or plants that you want to make sure they're in good shape too.
And there was a lot of plants this time because sometimes we have had house sits where there are no pets, where it's just plants.
Yeah, we had one that was all plants and a humidifier that we had to empty.
Yeah, we had to empty a humidifier, and that was probably, I'd say, a lot more work than most pet sits. Now, you're the plant whisperer, so she does almost all the plants.
But and I can be a little anal trying to
make
make sure that's
You do a great job with the plants, but I mean, you would spend a couple hours on every other day watering plants and taking care of plants.
But that was the same way with this one that we just left. That was another reason I wanted to get up earlier in the morning, is because to me, you either water early in the morning or late. You don't water in the middle of the day. Anyway, so that was another reason that, I wanted to get up and make sure that all that was taken care of. So if we wanted to go lollygag, that was done. But so to me, the responsibility, you're right, is double-edged.
Yes,
because
I always feel I feel lighter once a house sit is finished and it's
because you don't
successful.
Have the responsibility.
I feel like it's very exciting to have the house sit and to go through it, but once you get to the end of it and everything is worked out great, it's good to wrap things up on a high note.
Sure.
We want to do a good job. I mean, we've had some house sits where there have been some home issues. It's just a natural occurrence, and that's why we are there.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the reasons people want somebody in their home. And sometimes we've done home sits where there wasn't a lot of plant responsibility or pet responsibility. They want somebody there if there's a hurricane, if there's a big storm, if a pipe busts. They want somebody there who's responsible, that can turn off the water. Yeah. If there is any kind of issue, you are there to
let them know
and kind of nip the problem in the bud and let the homeowner know so that they can make a decision about what needs to be done. And you can maybe facilitate whatever that's going to be. When we were in the house sit in Florida during hurricane season, the hurricane came through and there ended up being some structural issues with the building. And, we didn't do anything about it, but we let the homeowners know. And they had some folks come in and look at it, and so we were there to sort of facilitate that a little bit.
Yeah.
We had another one where air conditioning was leaking while we were there, and we had to address that as best we could until the homeowner got there. What else have we had?
Well, we thought a hurricane was coming in a couple of places, and so you're either moving sandbags if that's their process,
we've had 3 different times where hurricanes have come close to a house. At one time we had to shutter up the house. One time we had to put sandbags up. The other time we took the cats and we left. We actually went to the house sit early so that the folks could leave because the hurricane was almost coinciding with when the house sit was going to begin. So they actually left right before the hurricane and got on the last flight out of town,
before the airport shut down.
So their trip wasn't disrupted in any way. But we couldn't stay at their place because it was in the
it was in the impact zone.
Yeah, it was like an evacuation zone.
Yeah,
we couldn't have stayed there.
It was mandatory evacuation.
It was a mandatory evacuation.
Yeah.
So even before the house sit started, we took the cats and we went inland and stayed at a relative's house, and didn't start the house sit. Yeah. We didn't start it until the next day. And that was when, there was some leakage in the building.
Right.
But it really didn't affect the house sit. But it was something we needed to have some folks come in and look at.
Yeah.
While
and
those folks were away.
According to what the owners told us.
Yes.
I mean, that was the other great thing is the owner, in fact, they were on a cruise. And we've had people where they say, hey, we're going to be unavailable and here's the neighbors, that we trust them to be our voice. If you truly, if it's been 24 hours, you can't get us, then they're your backup, because we generally ask that. But even that,
ideally you want that, unless you can be in contact with the owner almost all the time. But those folks were getting on a sailboat, and they were going to be out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
So for 2 weeks, we were going to be completely out of touch with these people.
Right.
But then they had a proxy person, a friend,
they had
they
3
trusted.
different people, including a neighborhood vet. I mean, they had covered it all.
So we had all those contacts, but it would be our job to work with these people that they had assigned.
But so yes, there is some responsibility, but that feels good too, because as you say, it's an exchange of services. So yes, you're staying in someone's home, and that's definitely a financial something, but the warmth that we've already talked about, and having animals, if you don't mind indoor animals. I have relatives that indoor animals makes no sense to them. That's an oxymoron, but for us, that's just been a lot of fun, because of course animals are like people, they have different personalities. But so we
you just have to make sure that whatever responsibilities that come with the house sit are going to mesh up with what you want out of whatever it is. You don't want it to seem like too much of a chore. You want to be happy with whatever the homeowner wants you to do.
But you also want to realize, that's the other thing about the responsibilities with the house sit versus Airbnb. I mean, there's responsibilities everywhere. Even in Airbnb, I don't want to trash a place. I want to be respectful and all that. But with I have noticed with homeowners, even folks that think they're being they're telling you everything, you find out later, then there's also this, and there's also this, and there's also this. And I'm not talking about huge things, but sometimes yard issues or this and that and the other that they don't tell you initially. Or
like what? Give me an example. What are you talking about?
There's been some people that, by the way, would you do this in the yard every other day? And we have had somebody that it was no fault of theirs, that their lawn people didn't come, and so you ended up mowing their lawn for them because they were gone for a while. I mean, there are things like that will happen that will add to your responsibilities. But again, for us, that's never taken away from the overall experience.
Well, we've got a new question that we have, because we did a house sit last summer, and we found a leak. There was a leak in the house. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know what the leak was, and we were trying to figure it out, and then we were getting in touch with the people. And then the people let us know, that does leak sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't know that, and they didn't think about it, because it's not a leak that they normally have. It's just a leak that they have in the summertime. Because of the humidity, it gets very hot, and then they have some condensation issues, and then it causes a leak that comes through the house and down into the kitchen. And
that's true.
We were concerned about this. We were trying to figure it out.
Well, it also had an electrical component.
Yeah, okay, because
it shorted out
it
something
by
else.
The fridge too. So that was, they hadn't given us that information because they weren't thinking about it.
No.
Because it hadn't been an issue for them for a long time, because it was only an issue in the summertime.
Right.
And for us, it was a summertime house sit, and it wasn't an issue when we first got there. But then once we had been there for a couple of weeks, then this leak started, and so then we had to figure it out, and then we figured out it wasn't an issue at all.
It wasn't an issue. We just turned off the one thing because I think they were on a hike for like 24 hours. And I mean, we know, water and electricity doesn't mix. I mean, but I wasn't even thinking about that one. That one.
But now it's a question we ask. I ask now, are there any issues like leaks or anything that's seasonal? Something that's not going on right now that we need to keep an eye out for. And I always ask, are there any things we shouldn't be doing at once? Don't turn on the coffee maker.
That's right.
And don't turn on this at the same time.
And touch this,
Is that going to is that going to trip breakers? We always ask, where the water cutoff is, to turn off the water if there's an issue. Because one time we were staying at an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we woke up in the middle of the night.
It was like 5:30.
5:30 in the morning. It was still dark out. And we're laying in bed, and we hear this. We just hear this sound. I don't want to say it's an explosion or popping or whatever, but a pipe had burst in the wall, and all of a sudden, water starts coming out of the wall in the kitchen. And I mean, literally, as we're standing in this very small Airbnb, it's starting to fill up with water.
Yes. So we're trying to move stuff out as quickly as we can.
We're throwing all our bags up on the bed. We're trying to get all our possessions off the floor.
And move their stuff that was cloth out of the way.
We're trying to get all of their stuff up. We're trying to get everything up because it's filling up with water. Then we run around to the front of the house. We're banging on the front door of this unit. It wasn't part of the Airbnb. It was a different rental unit, but we were trying to figure out where to turn off the water.
Because we couldn't reach the owner. We had already sent a message.
But we did finally reach the owner who was in Germany and blah, blah, blah. And we did finally dig out the thing out front by the street, and we turned off the water.
But it was still dark, so we just couldn't see it. We looked all the places we knew to look, but when it's dark. Anyway.
But that's
what happened.
That's really not our job or our responsibility, because it's an Airbnb. Like this Airbnb, I have no idea how to turn off the water. I have no idea how to do all that. If we have a problem, we'll call the Airbnb people, or we'll go knock on one of these doors and hope they're associated with it somehow. But if we're doing a house sit, then it is our responsibility.
Sure.
So we want to know beforehand how to turn off the water, how to shut off the electricity, how to do all these different things that might occur. Something could happen and an issue we might have to address. And that's a responsibility that you have house sitting that you don't have, at an accommodation that you're paying for.
I guess something I had to get adjusted to is when we first started house sitting, because I did feel like it's such an intimate thing, and I don't know these people as well, and I know I've said this before.
Yeah.
I would be too uptight. Okay, is this what they want us to do? Is this what they want us to do? Because you're doing a very intimate thing with people that, again, we pick folks that we think, we have some sort of chemistry, even at the very beginning. But so I was a little uptight. Where here, it's a written agreement. We have given you money.
Mm-hmm. It's a clear-cut business transaction.
Yeah.
Where it's not a business transaction with house sitting. And we don't want it to be a business transaction. No. It is an exchange of services. We are doing somebody a solid, a favor. We're helping these people out.
And they're helping
us out. Yeah. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. And we like it that way. We like it as we're both getting something out of this, and we're happy. We want to make sure that we do the best job we can house sitting for them and their pets. We want to put them at ease so they can go and have a great time and enjoy themselves. That's what we want. And in return, we want them to want us to have the exact same experience in their home. I don't want to go there and then feel like they're doing me a favor by letting me stay in their home, or I feel like an employee because I'm not getting paid, so I don't want to get that feeling. And sometimes if we get that job from a listing, if we feel like the person feels like, we're going to get somebody in here, free labor, to take care of our pets and home for us, and it feels like, they're going, that we're going to be lucky. I'm not saying that the right way, but you know what I'm talking about? You're just saying,
again, if we don't get a good vibe from the profile, then or the call, then we may not take it.
Yeah.
But the other thing you were talking about comparing, even though I'm not as uptight when we started, there's no doubt about it. When we leave an Airbnb, we're going to leave it clean. We're not going to leave trash everywhere and blah, blah, blah. It's clean. Yeah. And usually cleaner than we found it. But with a house sit, we want to be sure when the folks come home, just like if your relatives, if you were staying in their home and, they're going to come back, I want them to feel, everything's clean and fresh. And like in an Airbnb, we're not cleaning the sheets and the towels. I mean, we are cleaning the dishes, but we're not trying to mop and dust and do all that.
Yeah.
So we do put more pressure on ourselves in the house sit.
Usually the last day or day and a half, we sort of dedicate to cleaning the house.
Even if they have maids.
Putting everything exactly the way it was and making sure that we leave it as pristine as possible so that there's no sign of us when we leave.
Yeah.
And that when they return, it's perfect for them to return to. And that's a little bit of work.
Yeah, for us. But we usually pick people that they're more relaxed than we are. I think if we didn't do as much, they'd be okay. But it's like a respect. To me, it's like, hey, this is an extra thank you for what we did. But
usually that's what we find when we go to a house sit. We usually find it's very nice and pristine too. And that's what we want from people.
Yeah.
We want the people to create a perfect situation for us to come into. And then we'll try to leave a perfect situation for them to return to.
In fact,
but it is a little bit of work.
It is a little bit of work, and folks are generally so lovely, and they're trying to leave us like lots of closet space and drawers, and we have to say to them, we have a 10-liter bag and maybe a little extra.
Yeah.
But
we're not traveling with a whole lot. We don't need a lot of space.
Although domestically, when we have a car, sometimes a few more things end up in the car.
But that is another thing. When we leave here, when we check out this Airbnb, there's going to be nothing to it. We'll just make sure everything's straight. We'll throw everything in our bags and we'll go.
Yeah.
Because the Airbnb, they'll send somebody in here and they'll clean up and they'll get it ready for the next person. But with the house sit, we have to plan and think a little bit more about it, because we are essentially, the people that are getting the home ready for the next guest.
Sure.
Which just happens to be the homeowners returning.
Sure. But we like both.
We do like both.
Because you were saying, which one do you like better?
Well, it all depends. I mean, here in Mexico, in Ecuador, there's pros and cons. In the United States, it's not.
You like it because financially.
Yeah, because in the United States, we cannot afford, to spend. We could not spend 3 months at Airbnbs in the United States traveling around like we did in Ecuador, because that would be out of our budget. Or if we did it within our budget, we wouldn't be staying in any places where we'd be getting a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like here, we're spending, I think, a little less than $400 for 8 days. Here, which is high for Mexico. So. San Miguel de Allende is a little pricier than other places in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And we have a little bit more space than we need, but it is within our budget. In the United States, this wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be able to stay this close, to the happening part of town at a 3-bedroom Airbnb in the United States. It would cost $5,000 for the week. It costs thousands of dollars for sure.
And it is a quiet area too, which is nice.
And sort of not something you can expect in Mexico. Although we do hear stuff around here.
Oh, sure.
But we haven't really heard anything, I don't think, that'll show up on this podcast. Mm-mm. But a lot of times, places that you're staying, you're going to hear a lot of dogs, you're going to hear a lot of music, you're going to hear a lot of who knows what
vehicles. You can hear, and you can hear the gas or the gas man, the water man, the knife sharpening man, the ice cream man.
Yeah, we've seen the knife sharpening man. He rides around on a bicycle and he's got a whistle that he blows.
Yes.
And then he's got a kind of a knife sharpening apparatus hooked up to his bicycle.
And then he makes it stationary, so he's getting exercise, and that's how he. I guess it's like not pumice stones. What is anyway? Knife sharpening stones. Yeah. But anyway, so I like them both, and I think they're different experiences, sure. But as I said, we've sort of covered that. But the people, generally with house sitting, you get a little more time to talk with people. Although often we meet people, I wish we were staying in an area and we'd have more time to just talk to them about their travels and their life experiences. Which again is a good thing.
We've met some very cool people over the years house sitting, and we've ended up returning and doing repeat house sits for some people, and we're still in touch with some people that we see them periodically, even when we're not house sitting for them. Mm-hmm. So it is it's a good way to meet like-minded people, or the same people that maybe are on the same wavelength, because a lot of times we're traveling, we're using house sitting as a tool to travel as house sitters, and then these folks are using the house sitting app, to get folks in there so that they can travel. Yeah. So a lot of times you're meeting fellow travelers. Yeah. But you got to weigh the responsibilities with the savings, with what you get versus what you have to pay for. It's kind of a no-brainer in most places. You know, house sitting wins hands down. Here in Mexico, or a place where the cost of lodging maybe is more affordable, you know, you might have to weigh it a little bit more.
And you might choose.
But I think, I would definitely return to the house sit that we just finished. We've already met the folks we're going to be house sitting for in the future, and that looks like a really terrific house sit. You know, I'm sure that's going to be a good experience. But I do like that we're not house sitting this week. You know, it is a little bit different. We're going to be moving to another Airbnb
for a month. Yeah.
Yep, so I like mixing it up, but I'll definitely be trying to get in before the 5 applicants cut us off on future house sits that we see in.
You're
Mexico.
addicted.
Yeah, definitely. But that's it. I think I don't know if we said anything too informative, but hopefully this will give you some idea about the differences between, you know, what you can expect house sitting versus not house sitting, and which one would you be interested in. I tell you what, we have never stayed in an Airbnb that's as nice as the places where we house sit.
I'd have to think about that, but I'll trust you.
Yeah. So that's one benefit, is you will get to see a different way of living when you house sit. Because a lot of times a house sit is basically you're putting on somebody's lifestyle.
For a little while.
You're
sure.
putting yourself into whatever living situation that they have. So that's a great experience. Whereas an Airbnb, a lot of times it's just a place to sleep.
Yeah.
You don't have a sense of looking at the world through somebody else's eyes. And I think that's one of the things that you can't put a price on with house sitting, and it's hard to replicate it.
That's true too. I mean, even just books and music and art in someone's home.
You see how the way people
great.
live. It gives you a glimpse into a different way of living.
Yeah, but even just the books, the art, the music, that's fun. You usually find somebody, an author or an artist that you hadn't heard of before. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Lots of benefits when you step into somebody's house and live in their house.
Sure.
As opposed to Airbnb, where you just get a couple of beat up Teflon skillets that you're not going to use.
Not.
Yeah.
Again, there's a range, but again, you've heard us enough that you know we do try to live within a budget. We enjoy ourselves, but we do want to live within a budget. We're not comfortable with,
Well, we have a budget.
Looming.
And house sitting is a big part of us staying in our budget.
That's true.
So if you have a budget and you have a lot of flexibility, check out the link below to Trusted House Sitters. I'll have a link down below, and you can check out our playlist that's all about house sitting. We're putting up videos about San Miguel de Allende, and we've got an older playlist from our previous Mexico travels. We were in Ecuador last year, and I got that. I'll put a link down to that playlist too. And that's it. We got a cooking channel, blah, blah, blah. We got a Patreon if you want to buy us a cup of coffee. We can always use the coffee. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you want to support us that way, it's much appreciated. But thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing and thumbs it up and doing all of that stuff. And from San Miguel de Allende, this is Slowpoke Travel Podcast. So long.
Adios.
Alrighty, that is it. Click, subscribe, review, share all over the global internet sphere. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time on the Slowpoke Travel Podcast.